A new month is here. A new week, of course, has begun. It's good to come your way once again. Let me take you through the top stories this hour. We start in Parliament, where Speaker Michael Quay has yet to make a statement on the bribery scandal. Sitting has been suspended, but our man is on the ground. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament launched a strong resistance to government's quest to review their Mary power deal. Delta forces, the abandoned mother and baby units at the Comfort Nochi Teaching Hospital, and a mammoth rally highlights the President Akufo-Addo's visit to the Ashanti region over the weekend. We'll be engaging party officials on what is meant to be a monthly routine. And ahead in the bulletin, former Vice President Amissah Arthur announces his active participation in holding government to account. It appears he's poised for 2020 already. We have more details here on the Pulse. Well, those are the top stories. My name is Ghartey and this is the Pulse. Please be my guest. Welcome to the details. Now, this afternoon, there's another period of wait for MPs and Ghanaians as the Speaker, Professor Michael Quay, is expected to deliver his final ruling on the vetting bribery scandal. The Ghartey Committee found the accuser, Mahama Ayariga, guilty of contempt of Parliament. He had alleged the chairman of the Appointments Committee, Joe Osei-Wusu, and the Minority Chief Whip, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, had facilitated the payment of bribe to the minority members on the committee to approve the nomination of then Energy Minister designate Boakye Ejako. Well, since then, some ugly scenes have been witnessed in the House. Mahama Ayariga's apology, we understand, has been rejected, and a new one is expected to be presented to the House, after which the Speaker will deliver his final word on the matter. We can go live to Parliament, where Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is standing by. Well, it appears we don't have Opoku-Gakpo at the moment. We'll be touching base with him in Parliament House. But let me introduce you to a rather interesting story. Former Vice President Amissah Arthur has served notice of keeping government on its toes once the President has all his appointees in place. The former second gentleman has been speaking exclusively to JoyNews on the sidelines of the launch of the first African Study Bible here in the capital. Asked on whether he plans to contest the NDC primaries as flag bearer, the former vice president revealed that he has no plans of staying away from national affairs, as he will be commenting on national issues as and when necessary.
God's word is universal, but understanding of it based on cultures. And African culture is unique. And so what they have done is to present the Bible, to interpret the Bible in the stories, the relevance of those stories in Africa, in an African context, so that we Africans can also live with this universal message.
As a former vice president, you obviously may have the conduct of people in the past. We've talked lots about how the church could be key in changing attitudes of young people. Lots of wrong things across the youth.
The call to the youth is for us to study the Bible. It's a living document, and therefore we all live by it. It has many lessons in leadership, many lessons in how we conduct ourselves, both in private and in public, and I think those are the relevant messages for youth in Africa.
So in your very introduction, you cracked the joke about remaining active. Where should we expect you next apart from such events?
I'm going to be active. I will comment on national affairs as I see fit. I have a lot of experience in many things, and I'm not going to be sitting in a corner when things are going wrong. If things are going wrong, I'll speak about them. If things are going right, I'll comment whoever is doing the right thing, but I'll comment on national affairs.
How about the arena of politics? We are supposed to see you on the ticket of the NDC.
Whatever the calling is. No, sorry, what was your question?
In terms of the arena of politics, are we expecting to see you on the ticket of a party?
I'll be active in national life, in all aspects of national life, and so that's my answer.
Just to be clear, whether this is you are done with active politics or are you still staying in it?
Can one be ever in this, after having occupied this position, ignore things that happen? I'm saying that you cannot ignore things that happen in our country, and we, the people who have been privileged to serve, should be able to draw many lessons from what goes on, so that we can help to improve conditions of life for the people.
All right, so that is former Vice President Amissah Arthur with Joseph Akable. They were actually at a program where the Bible Society of Ghana has translated the Bible into several other local languages, and that was the occasion upon which he was met. Well, let's go over to Parliament, where Joseph Opoku Gakpo is ready at this point to give us an update on what's happening in Parliament. Gakpo, tell us what's happening with the not generally, but what's specifically happening with the Speaker's statement that is expected on the bribery scandal. Has he said anything so far?
We are waiting for that. In fact, the House began sitting sometime earlier this morning after 10 o'clock. The session lasted for a few minutes, less than 30 minutes, and then sitting was adjourned. You would recall that on Thursday night, when the Speaker, oversaw the delivery of the reports of the Ghartey committee on the issue, he indicated that the following day, which was on Friday, he was going to give the directive and the ruling in question. That didn't happen on Friday.
Yeah.
Late on Friday night, sometime around 10:40 p.m., when the House was adjourning sitting, Second Deputy Speaker Alban Bagwin, who was in the seat presiding over the sitting, indicated that it's an issue that the Speaker would deal with today.
Thank you very much. Gakpo will be coming to you as and when necessary, so that we can hear from the Speaker of Parliament, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, there with Member of Parliament for South Dine, who is Roxanne Nelson Dafiampo. They're very interesting discussion if you did follow. They believe, the minority of course believe, that this is an attempt to pursue a certain political agenda, or perhaps to bring Ameri back to the negotiating table for whatever reasons they say. They don't know. This is The Pulse with me, Gifty and Doppy. I'm going to take a very quick break. When I return, I'll tell you what's up with road safety. Please stay. Yeah, welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Well, in 16 days, the Ministerial Task Force on Illegal Mining is expected to go hard on Galamsey operators in Ghana. Here with me in the studio is Alhaji Inusah Hussaini, who is former Lands and Natural Resources Minister. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
How are you doing, by the way?
Well, I'm fine. And how are you?
Not bad at all. How's the opposition treating you?
Well, we certainly aim to keep government on its toes.
You tried to stop Galamsey whilst you were in office. What is it that made you unsuccessful? Because at this point, we will say that we still have a major problem with Galamsey.
Well, thank you so very much for inviting me to the studio to discuss this rather important topic for this country, and also to say good afternoon to your listeners and viewers. It's important to understand that Galamsey operations and illegal small-scale mining. When I say Galamsey, I'm actually meaning illegal small-scale mining. Okay. It could also mean artisanal mining.
So, well, Mr. Amel, let's go through the list of things that you say you'll be doing. You're looking to reduce the source of funding especially for the Chinese who are involved in this. You're asking them to cease drilling on the water bodies. You've given them about 2 weeks. You've got about 16 days more. If they don't stop drilling in the water bodies, then what? Because you cannot be everywhere in these Galamsey mining areas, can you?
Never. It's not possible. Because what is happening now, it's not happening at the superstructure level at all, where you and I are sitting. It's happening down at the substructure level, where we have political leaders, we have chiefs, religious leaders, politicians, name them. All these people are there, at the substructure level. And that is why we're doing a more holistic approach. It is true that the previous combat and militant approach in resolving the issue had not totally resolved the issue, because it has not been more sustainable.
To find out, sir, what I'm seeking to find out
approach is what we're going to introduce now.
What I'm seeking to find out, sir, is about what is going to happen after the 16 days elapse and the Chinese people are still mining on the water bodies. What is going to happen? Exactly what, sir?
Yeah, I stated earlier on that this activity, it's lawlessness. And so the law agencies are going to call on those guys. I mean, it's total disregard for our regulations and laws and policies of this country. So the law would apply.
The law would
will
apply,
take
that we know. We know that they're conducting these activities illegally. We also know, a lot of people have said, and if you speak to the miners, the galamseyers themselves, they'll tell you that some of the security forces at the grassroots are also involved in this. In that case, how do you strike the balance? Because I mean, I think it's pretty easy to say that the law will apply, but we have seen over the years that the laws have not really been applied.
Well, what is different this time is that we have a different president, a president that is so passionate about what is happening, a president that is more caring for the environment.
There's a very good response from the public out there. How is your ministry going to take advantage of that particular public disposition to help clamp down on this activity? And talking about drones, are you not worried that these armed illegal miners will be able to shoot them down?
Of course, there's a risk we take in every activity, but it's an alternative way of, making sure that we monitor some of these things. We don't have to rule it out at all. Okay.
Let me bring in the former minister, sir. Now, I want you to tell us how you've engaged this issue from at the diplomatic level. We know that the Chinese, they make a lot of donations, especially to our security services in this country. We know that we've gone to them asking for loans, etc., asking for financial support. How did you deal with it at that level?
Well, thank you for this opportunity, and let me congratulate the minister for at least taking action to try to stop the illegal mining activities of some miscreants in society. When I was occupying the city he's occupying now, I didn't have any problem with diplomatic engagement.
You just stop it right there and then?
There and then. There's no moratorium with illegal activities. You don't. You see, because if they are dredging, and dredging in water bodies is an offense. So if you find somebody dredging in a water body, you don't want
give them an ultimatum
to stop.
Mr. Amewo, you heard him. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I perfectly agree with the minister, my very good friend, for that, because illegality cannot be contained in such a friendly manner.
But it appears that's what you're doing now.
What we're doing is not giving them a moratorium. No, not at all.
Mr. Amewo, that's quite interesting because we're looking at a country that, and we're also looking at a president who is known to be a strict abider of the rule of law. If somebody is doing something that is unlawful, something that is wrong, like the minister is saying, you apply the law immediately. I do not think that Ghanaians in China will be able to get this kind of, if you like, pampering, for lack of a better word. Okay, it appears you didn't hear me, sir, but the
precisely,
question...
you are right. If you are aware... No. I get you.
Okay.
If you are aware, just about a week ago, five people were arrested, including 3 Chinese were arrested in these activities. I mean, we're not saying that they should wait for 3 weeks, before they start arresting them. It was during the discussion, and they wanted to know, because they have moved to the field, they have to talk to their people.
How did you do it?
I didn't do it in a way. I mean, I remember this, giving them 3 weeks came up. I refused. I said,
so they asked you, the Chinese actually asked you for this kind of ultimatum, and you said no.
I said no. I said, I'm going to get the people who are doing small scale mining. And mind you, I don't want to reduce the discussion to Chinese.
Okay.
I always told them, even when they came, that was my mission as I understood it was to rid the small-scale mining sector of illegalities.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, sir, for your time. John Peter Amewo is Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. We're wrapping up this conversation. Sir, you've heard him.
Yes.
Sounds like a very good idea, doesn't it?
Surprise is still a very important element of warfare.
So they should be ready for surprises. Did you come across bribery from Chinese officials?
Yes, I came across. I came across.
Yeah, in what form? I mean, how much did they offer you?
No, not money. In the form of a scholarship for my son to study in China.
Okay, so the Chinese diplomats came and said, we can offer your son...
no, it was not like, I mean, they don't be that crude.
How did it go?
Well, we're in the engagement and talk, and I was offered a scholarship for my son to study in China.
So that what? The Chinese will continue mining on the water bodies?
I don't know. Maybe it will continue to remind me that my child is in China.
I see. And you rejected it?
Sure. I mean, you need to understand what is happening. I mean, if I talk passionately and emotionally about this.
And thank you very much for your time here on the show. Former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Alhaji Nusaf Hussaini, there sharing his thought. He actually says that Chinese officials attempted to bribe him with a scholarship for his son. Well, we'll go into that. Perhaps he will have some advice behind the scenes for the current minister on dealing with such bribery. Well, let's move on away from Galamsey and deal with some other stories. The second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II of England, Princess Anne, now Princess Royal, will begin a 2-day working visit to Ghana today. She arrives in Accra tonight with the Asante and expected to host her at a mini Deba at the Meshia Palace in Kumasi. JoyNews, your most credible news source, is the sole accredited media organization to provide coverage for this event. Beatrice Edu and Seth Kwame Boateng are among a few journalists who are billed to be engaged by the princess for their sterling works in the promotion and protection of women's rights in Ghana. Seth did a story on how 4 children and some mothers are dying at the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital daily due to the lack of adequate facilities. Beatrice, on the other hand, did a story on how women were being cruelly bathed with acid in parts of the country, in most cases for trivial reasons. Here are excerpts of the documentary Corrosive Love, which caught the attention of Princess Anne.
Corrosive Love. When a person decides to pour acid on a fellow human being, it's an act of violence that seeks to maim both body and soul. An acid attack leaves most of its victims with life-transforming physical and emotional scars. 22-year-old Anita Otima is one of the many women in Ghana who have suffered the heinous attack. She lives at La Paz in Accra. Anita Otima's ex-boyfriend poured acid on her because she decided to quit the relationship. She's lost an eye. Half of her face is charred, even melted by the acid. Her facial skin literally pouring down her cheeks. Her right arm has become immobile. The skin on her thighs have peeled off and replaced by permanent scars. Water drips from her left eye that does not see any longer, and she wipes these tears almost every second as she speaks with me. Henrietta Amoa has been a patient at the reconstructive plastic surgery unit for almost a week now. A man she had dated for 4 years shattered her dream of spending the rest of her life with him.
I was bathing when someone poured acid on me.
Who was that person?
That was my fiancé, who wanted to marry me.
For how long were you in a relationship with him?
Almost 4 years now.
So why would you think he would pour acid on you on a Thursday morning when you are bathing?
I don't have any idea about that one. That was up to date. I've been thinking about it. I don't know the reason why. He was playing with me quietly, kindly, lovely. So I didn't think about this kind of thing. I wasn't expecting it at all in my life.
When were you supposed to get married?
That was last year, but some things didn't go through. So we decided to do it this June on my birthday. But here I am, being in the hospital.
Henrietta was a very beautiful woman. Today, she struggles to live with the fact that many people find it difficult to look at her twice. Henrietta finds strength and hope in what her doctors have told her, that she would be all right. There's no need waiting. If it happened to one, it could happen to many. Remember, Anita Otima is burdened with a need to find money for her surgery. She cannot step out of her home because of her deformity. Henrietta Amoa is struggling to understand the reason for the attack on her life. things must change, and the change must begin from now. These women urgently need help.
Those are excerpts from that Corrosive Love documentary put together by Beatrice Edu and Maxwell Agbagba, who is a member of the team of journalists from the Multimedia Group who are covering this visit, are here with me in the studio. It's good to see you both. Beatrice, let's look at your story. What has happened with the victims of this acid attacks?
I'll start with Anita. Shortly after her story was aired, actually I aired her story before I put together Corrosive Love, and so shortly after that Vodafone Healthline came in and they sponsored her surgery, and so as we speak she's had about 2 surgeries already. I think she's left with 2 or 3 more and then she will be done. And so she has received support. For Henrietta, she's yet to receive support, but yes, we've been checking up on her to find out how well she's doing after the documentary. Yes. Okay.
So Maxwell, let's now talk about the trip. Take us through the outline for tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow?
Okay, so Princess Anne will be arriving in Ghana today, so this evening she will be arriving.
Okay.
And then tomorrow her first point of call will be at the Flagstaff House, where she would have interactions with President Akufo-Addo on Ghana's bilateral, relationship over the years. So after that conversation, though, she would move to the Christian Box Military Cemetery. There will be a wreath-laying ceremony. Expected to be present is the Chief of Defense Staff. We're also expecting the Minister of Defense to also be present. So after that wreath-laying ceremony, then she would move to the British Council, where she would have interactions with some girls from the from Karma and then Comfort. She'll be having interactions with them at the British Council. From there, she'll be moving to one of the DFID programs. They are beneficiaries of the DFID program, the Engine program. So she'll be having interactions with this woman who sells shea butter and then makes, some stuff from shea butter and all of that. So it's kind of like a micro, company that she's managing. So she wants to find out how these small-scale, companies are, managing to stay afloat in the heat of economic crisis that we find ourselves. Then after that, there'll be a reception at the High Commissioner's residence to, climax the event for Accra. Then later on Wednesday, she moves to Kumasi.
Okay, and what's happening in Kumasi briefly?
Okay, let me just run you through what will be happening at Kumasi. So at Kumasi, she'll be meeting the Asante Hene. That's on the 5th of April. So arrival at the Royal Palace, and then from there, she's the patron of Opportunity International in the UK. So she'll be visiting the site. Then from there, also she'll be visiting the Wesley College of Education, and then depart by car, and then move to the Kumasi airport, and then board a chartered flight, and then moves to Sierra Leone.
I see. He moves to Sierra Leone. No, she moves to Sierra Leone. But we know, Beatrice, that you are one of the people that she'll be engaging. Is that correct?
Exactly, yes. And Anita will also be there with me because she wants to have a first-hand experience of.
How did she get in touch with it? With this? How did she get to know about this story?
Okay, the documentary has been online, so I suppose she got the information and everything about it online. Exactly. So that's how probably she got to know it. And then I had a call from the British High Commission that she was coming down and she needed to see me and one of the victims.
One of the victims. Okay. Well, one of the things that they do here in Ghana is also to support with education. So there's a project that's ongoing with the Ghartey Foundation. You've been to one of the schools that they teach through the camera, basically. Exactly. Give us something briefly on that, and then we'll wrap up the conversation. The Ghartey
Foundation, basically, they use satellites, projectors, and then computers. They use that in teaching, kids in deprived communities. So I'm talking about 72 deprived communities. So they have their center here in Accra, and they do live broadcasts to these deprived communities. So you have a teacher station here in Accra at the Ghartey Foundation premises, teaching kids in about 72 different schools simultaneously. I had interactions with the country director, Leonora Dowley, and she's talking about what they've been doing. So we can watch it.
Whilst we watch that, let me just let you know that Maxwell and Beatrice will be taking leave of us, but they will be bringing us a lot of what's happening tomorrow with that particular royal trip. Well, we'll see you tomorrow then. Well, let's listen to Leonora, who is CEO at the Ghartey Foundation.
Ghartey Foundation is an education foundation that was established to improve education for underprivileged children. The way that we do that in Ghana is through teacher training and girls' education. So we have two projects here. One is called MG Cubed, Making Ghanaian Girls Great, which is funded by the Department for International Development, UK Aid. And for that one, we broadcast to 72 schools in the Volta and Greater Accra regions, and we broadcast literacy, numeracy, and after-school boys and girls sessions. We have a second project that's funded by Dubai Cares, which is a teacher training project. And for that one, we broadcast live interactive teacher training to about 500 schools across the eastern region. We're really excited because we're just about to start broadcasting to a refugee camp in the western region in Ghana.
Wow, interesting. So is it just in Ghana, or you have other branches in other countries as well?
The Ghartey Foundation has a global presence, so we're running projects at the moment in Argentina and in Uganda as well. But we also run something called the Global Teacher Prize, which is $1 million prize for a teacher who's made an outstanding contribution to the profession. And that's in its third year, and we're yet to have a Ghanaian in the shortlist, so we're hoping that next year we'll get a lot of applications from the fantastic teachers that are in Ghana.
Okay. Well, so the foundation has been in Ghana for how many years?
We've been here for just over 4 years.
Over 4 years?
Yes.
Tell me, what are some of the challenges that you've identified with the Ghanaian educational system?
Well, I think the challenges are fairly well known. There's a lot of great work going on here, and the Ghana Education Service manages it very well, and the ministry obviously has its plans to improve some of the quality of education. I think one of the things that we've seen is that infrastructure can be difficult, so it can be difficult to reach the most marginalized students, and teacher training, particularly for in-service teachers, perhaps isn't as widespread as it could be. So those are the challenges we're trying to address.
Great. So how do you hope to use your platform? Because what you're doing, may well be considered as a novelty in Ghana, because even for tertiary institutions, they don't really use, these facilities in their teaching and all of that. How do you hope to use that to bridge, the gap that we have in our educational system?
Well, it's a really good question, because this is actually the first time that this kind of technology infrastructure has been used in any country in Africa.
Okay.
So Ghana is really a pioneer, and we've started these projects as pilots to see if they work. So all of our projects are evaluated very rigorously, and we're coming to the end of the pilots now, and we've shown an impact in all of them. So we know that they're working. Yeah. So what we're doing now is we're talking to other people to try and scale up across the whole country. So we're looking at a nationwide scale up of teacher training and girls' education.
Great. Before we wrap up with this conversation, can you tell us about your beneficiary communities? What are some of the feedback that you get from them, beneficiary communities and the beneficiaries themselves?
Yeah, we have project staff in every single community that we work in, so that we always have a way of asking our beneficiaries what they're thinking, what their feedback is, and what they'd like us to do, because ultimately we work for them, and so their feedback's really important.
Maxwell Akbakba has got a very special documentary on that, and we'll put it all together and then put it through to you by tomorrow. Well, this is where we draw the curtain, but just so you know, we've got more news coming up in our subsequent bulletins. Well, the deaths that occurred at the Kumasi Academy are being investigated. We'll bring you some more on that, and some disturbances going on in the Upper West region as well. But for now, log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. My name is Ghartey Andoapia. It's been a pleasure having you.